As we continue on with Chapter 7, we're going to talk now about why we sleep. What is the proposed function of sleep? And while there's a variety of different ones out there, we're going to focus in on two. Keep in mind that they can go by a variety of different names, and hopefully you'll understand what they are by the time we're done with this video. So think back to what we've covered in previous videos. What is the biological cause of sleep? What allows us to go to sleep at night? We have all those things that keep us awake during the day and arouse us. Do you remember what that neurotransmitter was? GABA. So it's the inhibitory functions of GABA that cause our brain to shut down at night. But why? Why do we need this 6 to 8 hours of sleep? So potential functions include recuperation or restoration of the brain and body, and brain plasticity or memory consolidation and learning. So we're going to talk about each of these in a little bit of detail. So this recuperation theory that we're going to talk about, sometimes known as like regeneration of the brain and body, that the body is healing itself, the brain is healing itself while we sleep. We're going to talk about some lines of evidence that go along with this. And the first is that research has shown that there are genes associated with restoration that are activated when we sleep. These include genes involved in various metabolic pathways and protein synthesis, suggesting that this protein synthesis, these metabolic pathways, are helping restore whatever is needed to be restored in our brain, as well as our body. We also know that healing occurs faster with sleep. So when you're sick, you want to sleep, right? That helps us get better. The same is true for injuries. So we've seen that rats that are deprived of sleep in experiments, they show distinctly inferior healing capabilities. They develop skin lesions, they lose body mass, they're unable to maintain stable body temperature. Ultimately, they might die of sepsis or just plain exhaustion. So these sleep-deprived rats have been shown to exhibit lower leukocytes, which are white blood cells, and this is the body's main defense against infection. So again, the idea is that with sleep, our immune system is going to be more effective. It's going to allow for healing. Again, going along with this idea of recuperation. Now, we also more recently have discovered that there's growth hormone associated with slow wave sleep, and this growth hormone that seems to be released during stage 3 is going to promote growth and recovery. It's an important factor in tissue regeneration. We know that athletes who put their bodies under a lot of stress and physical pressure, they're going to spend proportionally more time in slow wave sleep than the average person. Growing children, they spend more time in slow wave sleep than older individuals. And as their body is growing, and they need more time to promote this growth and recovery. Also, hard physical exercise typically causes a moderate rise in deep slow wave sleep, where we're having this growth hormone being released. And all of this supports the cell restoration and repair theory, or this recuperation theory. It also seems that during sleep, specifically slow wave sleep, we have removal of waste, and this is part of the glymphatic system. You can see up here in this diagram, we're showing how that glymphatic system works. We have this lymphatic duct. We have these astrocytes that are glia that are part of this lymphatic system, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to come through, wash over those neurons, and then it leaves through that lymphatic duct. This is just another diagram showing that glymphatic system. This is something, as we talked about earlier, that we've only known about for maybe 10 years or so. So the idea is we didn't used to think that we had these lymphatic vessels in our brain, and newer technology in the last decade or so allow us to view these. And now we know that the lymphatic vessels work in conjunction with glia to help remove this waste and debris that builds up during the day. And so again, that's a very important function of sleep. The other theory is this brain plasticity theory, or this memory and learning theory. So sleep does seem to play an important role in enhancing learning and strengthening memory, which involves plasticity of the brain. So research has shown that sleep deprivation leads to memory deficits. So think about that the next time you want to pull an all-nighter. Maybe you remember the information for an exam, but do you remember it down the road? So you haven't really gotten that information into long-term memory. We know that sleeping enhances memory for new information. We see that performance on a newly learned task is often better the next day if adequate sleep is achieved the night before. We know that there's increased brain activity in an area that's activated by a new task. So researchers see that there's increased brain activity in an area that was activated by that newly learned task while one is asleep. The patterns of activity in the hippocampus during learning are similar to those shown during sleep, suggesting that the brain replays its daily experiences during sleep, perhaps strengthening those synapses, because as we'll learn in a few weeks, when cells that fire together wire together. We also see an increase in sleep spindles after new learning. Now remember, we talked about sleep spindles potentially being really important in that memory consolidation. And do you remember what stage those occur in? Stage 2. And they indicate an exchange of information between the thalamus and the cortex. And it appears again that these are very important in memory consolidation. We also know that synapses are strengthened and weakened during sleep. So while we sleep, synapses shrink by about 20%, and that's what you can see here. This is when we're awake, and this is when we sleep. And this allows the synapse to rest so that it can be strengthened the next day. Synapses, on the other hand, that shrink too much could end up being permanently pruned. So again, research shows that there's a difference in what our synapses look like when we're awake and when we're asleep, suggesting that there is something going on while we sleep, and that appears to be important in memory formation, and also shows that the brain is plastic, and a lot of that plasticity probably occurs while we're sleeping. And I will leave you here with this meme.